Hey guys, welcome to this episode of Context is King. I'm Rebecca Brayton, and with me as always is WatchMojo founder and CEO Ashkan Karbasfrooshan to discuss why dreaming big can kill your business. Well, at least that's what Chris Trung thinks. So he wrote this article about this. Do you agree?
Yes, absolutely. Let's say you start a business. It's no different really at first than if you start a restaurant, right? So like there's some benefits to that. You can maybe pay a bit more attention to quality because you're serving less plates. But if you were to look at whether it's a TGIF or Smith & Wollensky, which is a frequent example I mentioned.
Is that a real place?
Yeah, it's a steakhouse in New York. Yeah. Or Del Frisco's.
I've never been there.
Or wherever. It's good. It's good steak.
Sounds good.
You're not going to benchmark your processes, your pricing, your products to something that is either this mega chain or this high end. You got to be realistic. So I think the mistake that a lot of entrepreneurs make is if they do start off bootstrapped, eventually they get bigger, and then they start to order with their eyes instead of their stomach. And they're like, oh, Google has 57 foosballs and 75 espresso machines, so I got to get espresso machines, right? And I think that's ultimately what this boils down to, that you can't be doing what Google does. Google is an anomaly. It's 1 in a billion even. And I think that's the mistake many do. I've made that mistake. Nothing fatal, thankfully, but when I read it, I emailed him and I said, spot on. And I put on LinkedIn or Twitter, a freaking men. It was spot on.
Yeah, I mean, this was an article in Business Insider. And his 3 main points were big name investors, big salaries and perks, which is what you were talking about with foosball and espresso, and big resumes.
Yeah, so very different, right? One of the reasons I turn down investment frequently is because I clearly see that one is just the relative importance of an investor that has 10 to 100 investments. They will eat their baby if they have to. So if they gotta crush one of their portfolio company eggs in the basket, meaningless. They don't care. But you as an entrepreneur, like I would hate to come to the office and say, hey guys, I made a couple of reckless decisions. We're 70, but we can only be 7 going forward. So one is investors generally only, they might make their reputation based on the hundreds of deals that they make, but they make their money off 1 or 2, So they are always looking for the home run. They'll swing even if they got to break bats, break bones, break whatever. As an entrepreneur, even if I go, this is not my baby, I'm the custodian, and that's true and it sounds great. I mean, it's my baby, So like, I'm obviously not going to eat my baby, So it's very different. Sorry for that visual, violent imagery. Too much Game of Thrones. Do they eat babies on Game of Thrones? I don't know if they do. They kill the babies.
One of the one things they
have
don't
sex
do.
with siblings, so I'm assuming eating babies is not that far off. Sorry. Ooh, that offends you guys. Okay, but so then the other one is true. You also bring executives. Like, look, I'm very flattered that we had all these senior execs come. And net, I'm happy I brought them on. But people said, they go, you're bringing too many on too quickly. They were right. But my reason for doing it was I wanted the trickle-down effect for their experience to rub off everybody else. So in that sense, it was good. But it was admittedly, it was too much. And then the problem is once you bring people on who are either investors and they go, ooh, at Google they do this. It's like, yeah, F off. We're not Google. Were you an investor in Google? No, you were not. And if you invested in Google, then we shouldn't even be talking because it's a very different yardstick. So I think you have to be careful. And then the last thing with the resumes, yeah, I mean, look, I've kind of learned now from my own experience and talking to other entrepreneurs who are not demented to come and talk about this on air, but they will probably nod along, is what makes somebody successful at a big company as an executive is really not the same skill sets of somebody who would be good at a Chris Truong's company or my company. So I think you have to kind of have the confidence and the courage to be like, oh, really? Really? That's really interesting. Facebook has like a masseuse every day at 5 p.m. Yeah, that's because Facebook is the new tobacco company. They sell your data the way that tobacco companies sold you cancer sticks. And so, you know what? For people to want to work at Facebook and not live, a life of shame, well, they got to have a masseuse and lots of other things.
Well, they might still live a life of shame, but they get massages.
They get a massage at the very every day. So it's kind of like, they rub you down. Anyway, so my point is, you got to be, well, what happens in a massage? Don't they rub you down?
Sounds...
My point, what do they do at a massage?
Move on.
So the point is, Now you're sounding like Christine. You're like, all right, Christine's my wife. So long story short, you got to be able to say no. And thank God, if you probably have picked it up over, like read between the lines. The reason I didn't, I was fine to bring on a lot of executives, but not bring on the investors, is pretty obvious. That eventually I could tell the executives, okay, this isn't working. Just you got to get in the penalty box, or you got to, change to become an advisor or something else. Whereas the investors, I don't care if they got 1%, 51%, or 91%. That's like marriage. They're going to be in your way, and you have to. All of a sudden, you're justifying why which espresso machine you got to get when you probably don't need.
We don't have an espresso machine, to be clear.
Nothing against espresso machines or foosball tables or lava lamps, but that's my point. So you gotta, as an entrepreneur, you really, really have to be confident and just cut that shit out.
Fair enough. So what do you guys think? What are the biggest mistakes that CEOs might make when they're dreaming big? Let us know what you think in the comments, and we'll see you next time.